It is a great joy, pleasure, and honor to greet you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever, wherever you may be. I accept you exactly as you are. I see you, I recognize you, magnanimous star. I see your truth of joy and pain reflected in my own. And we are called to share and celebrate this with one another through various rites, various passageways. With great awe and wonder, I come with feet placed on the ground and a toehold on a page in the book of reality that reads, where we are seemingly misfortunate, so often we are very fortunate. Where so often we feel fortunate, there's oftentimes hidden misfortunes. And it is far too easy for each and every one of us as human beings to judge, to belittle one another and ourselves for our seeming shortcomings. We should have been there at a different time. We should have said something else. Had we said something else, it would be different. We made a fool out of ourselves, pants dropping to the ground in front of a crowd. And now he said, she said, this impression is wrong, it's off, it's misguided. So commonly, this is our experience. Yet, so much is gained simply by accepting whatever is our fate, whatever cards were dealt to us. It's so easy to look at ourselves in this way where we see we fell off the path or we did something wrong or this, that, or the other thing, but do we always recognize why we reacted the way that we did or why we went in the direction that we did when things went sour or went bad? Because oftentimes there's something deeper to this story. There's something that's missing. There's something that wasn't there. And we may not always even see that we're doing the best that we can oftentimes. And that in the past, maybe we did the best that we could do at the time. And so it's just a matter of where we are, accepting our fate, whatever the cards we have had dealt to us. What does it mean to accept our fate? It does not mean that we have to like where we are. It doesn't mean we have to like our experience. It's about accepting the experience for what it is, so that way we can gain from it, and we can gain from whatever experience, even when it is tough. And it is tough. We should see how much we do struggle, myself, each other, one another, and that we do have these missing parts and pieces. And we are all on a journey of discovering how to rectify and how to improve time and time again. So to accept our fate is to honor our seasons, is to honor our cycles, our progression. And our progression is ours. It's uniquely ours. It's not coming from anybody else. It can't come from anybody else. That's what our fate is. It's the cards that we have dealt to us. To accept our fate is to honor our sensitivities. It's to honor what we've been given. We've been given various things that comes with various challenges and opportunities that are only discovered through a willingness to live and to explore, experiment, fall on our face from time to time in order to discover what we are working with, how to work with what we are working with, to learn through the experience of trial and error, to hone in on what is it that we have been given. What are the cards that have been actually dealt to us, actually? Because sometimes there's missing links, or sometimes we don't give to ourselves the credit that we deserve. Sometimes we don't give to ourselves the recognition that we deserve. That for all of us, for the most part, we're doing the best that we can at the time, with the knowledge, the resources that we had at the time, but we're learning through the experience, and we're gaining through the experience, regardless of whether or not we would choose the experience, because we don't always choose the cards that are dealt to us. The cards dealt to us is so oftentimes outside of our control. And when we have cards dealt to us that we don't want to see, we don't have to like them. Our acceptance of the cards that are dealt to us is not a matter of personal preference. It says nothing about your taste or your style. Our taste and style is what we get to create via our sovereignty and willpower in the best way that we can, in the circumstances that we have, with the cards that are dealt to us. To honor our sensitivities is to honor what gifts we have given to us. But to discover what our sensitivities are is oftentimes a process of trial and error. It's oftentimes a reductionist process. We're honing in on what it is that we have and what it is really, because it may have been misperceived in the past. There may have been other opinions involved. But it's through our life experience and our willingness to continue to learn and grow through trial and error that we're honing in on what are these things that we have given to us. And we have cards given to us that are challenging. And accepting these cards that are given to us that are challenging is where we discover our greatest hidden blessings. Because that's where we overcome the bias that we should have a life that we can relate to or comprehend via our personal preference, instead of a life that requires our surrendering to our fate, which is beyond what we just choose. It is also the circumstance we find ourselves, the world that we're born within, the families that we're born into, the standards, conventions, religions, belief systems of our given culture and society. And here's where we find a whole lot of cards dealt to us that may not necessarily be aligning with what we would have chosen or our personal preference. This is where we experience the challenges of our life. And yet when we confront these most challenging parts of our life, this is where we discover our greatest hidden blessings and our greatest medicines to offer. Because these are the points which will connect us to the pain and the suffering of others, where we now get to enter into a challenging situation that is relatable to the challenging situations that others are having in their authentic lived experience. we now come together and recognize that there is a mutual pain and suffering, and here is where we discover the medicine of support. Here is where we discover that previously, where we felt cursed, where we felt broken, where we felt excluded, where we felt isolated, we were discovering what are going to be the future solutions to come back to ourselves, to heal, to reintegrate, to find peace, to settle into our nervous system, to find what real love is, how to share respectfully our own uniqueness in relationship in a way that is harmonious, in a way that is reciprocal, in a way that is mutually beneficial. It's only through our most full spectrum life experience, falling on our face time and time again, that we are gaining a qualification to hone in on this ceaselessly, more and more, endlessly, because life is way too complex and way too in-depth for us to figure out what's going to work now and forever. There's always going to be an opportunity to come back to what may seem like a dead end or a failed journey, a failed dream, a burst bubble. There's always an opportunity to come back and to see it in a different way, to bring something new to the table that can change the entire circumstance. And we don't always get that right away. We do have to shelve things sometimes. We do have to shelve things sometimes and grab onto whatever is going to keep us afloat when we need a life preserver, when we're in the rapids and we don't have the environment, the support, the resources to do what we actually want to do. So it's not always it's not always a simple matter of choice and capability and will and you can do. It is a matter of fate. It is a matter of accepting the process, the procedure, the unfolding. But that's a little too much sometimes, so we can understandably hold a space for one another. When we see each other in the life preserver mode, or when we see ourselves in the life preserver mode, we can understand that. We can relate to that. We can have a great degree of compassion for our humanity and have humility and bestow the gift of humility, which means that we can hold a space for one another. When we trip over our shoelaces, when we drop our pants in front of the crowd, or say the wrong thing at the wrong time, it's okay. When we're in life preserver mode, sometimes we have to shelve something until we're in the correct environment with the right support, the right group that allows us to come back to what's really important or what's really underneath the deeper dynamics, the reality of the situation. We are all people, and simply saying yes to what we don't want to for ourselves and one another is a great, great medicine. Because we don't always have to like the cards that are dealt to us. It's simply a matter of acceptance. Accepting even the parts of ourselves that we don't want to and don't want to be there. Humility is accepting the cards that we don't want dealt to us. And understanding that it's not the end of the line. We don't start anything until we embrace the cards that we don't want to. That's when life begins. That's when authentic life begins. This is where we are so oftentimes fortunate, where we feel unfortunate. And so oftentimes where we are beyond our capacity to see, troubled, disadvantaged, where we feel that we may have things really going for us. This is something that we can clearly observe and see. Who's the judge? Where's the system of evaluation? Is success something that we can measure between all people? As if it's going to look the same or appear the same for all people? This is where our life and world becomes incredibly misleading. How we equate, how we judge this type of pass-fail, success, accomplishment, achievement in a one-size-fits-all or black or white type of way. When do we see the diversity of human experience, people's inner struggles, where they're coming from, what they're crawling out of? One person's treasure is another person's garbage is an understatement. One person's medicine is another person's poison is more like it. And what might appear as a terrific medicine can be a terrific poison, depending on how it's being used. Is it being used to accept one's fate? Is it being used to embrace the cards that we've had dealt to us, which is the same to embrace our life, to discover our gifts, to honor our sensitivities, to honor our seasons and cycles, so that way we can unfold like springtime flowers in the springtime in our full beauty, fragrance, and potential. We have to honor all of that to come into our beauty, fragrance, and potential. And who's the judge of this? What's the system of evaluation? And everyone's got their own seasons and their own cycles, and everybody is their own unique something. Plant, flower, cacti, whatever it may be. We're all growing in different ways at different times, in different rates, in different directions, but we each have our own fate. We each have our own given journey. That's the seed. If we're using something to embrace our nature, if we're using something to embrace the cards that we have dealt to us, we will discover the gems and the treasures in even the smelliest, most challenging, burdensome cards. Through the journey of acceptance, which may not be something we can do all on our own. It requires the right space, the right people, the right support, the right timing. And we do not always have all these ingredients going on, which is why we hold space for one another when we see that we're doing the best that we can at the time. And we look to one another, what we need, what we have missing as an attempt to create this space for one another, because it is too much to do all on our own. We do need the support to accept our fate because we have been dealt shitty cards. We don't have to like it. But when we have support, we can lean into it. When we have support, we can begin the journey of acceptance, and by accepting, we can discover the hidden blessings in even the most challenging cards. This is the reality of life. But if we use something to avoid our fate, even if it looks as the most shiny, successful, wonderful, accomplished, perfect, shiny golden star type of thing, if that be inauthentic, if that be a means of distraction, denial, avoidance of our fate, the things that we don't want to accept about our life, ourself, our journey, if we run away, even if it may look good, even if it may seem perfect, the axe comes down eventually. Nobody wants to be misled down that path. Nobody wants to mislead anybody down that path. This is why we must hold a space for one another to be human beings who will learn through our mistakes falling on our faces and our seasons and cycles, even when they're not pleasant seasons or cycles, even when we don't want to go through the right or the passageway that is ours to go through. This is the journey of the human being. It is my pleasure and honor and supreme humility to join you, to share with you, to reflect back to you what is my joy and pain, our truth, our shared humanity. This is our feet coming down to the ground. I am very, very honored and excited to be hosting a new community. This will be under the domain www.rasalilawisdom.com. This is a community of like minds, cool cats, because it's people hanging around me. And we get to be humans together. We get to share our actual lived experiences, our joy, our strife, and all of the medicines coming out of this as we are grist in the mill. We are the herbs and the medicines being pummeled by the seasons, the cycles of life, until we discover the bliss, the joy, the jewels and treasures coming out of all of this process. And as always, I wish the fullest of my heart, please take good care of yourself. Give the recognition to yourself, the pats on the back, the I'm proud of yous that you truly, sincerely deserve.